What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to another very special edition of the Burnout Brighter podcast. My name's Matt. I'll be your host for this evening's events. This is episode 141. I'm joined, as always, by my wonderful co-host, Destiny.
Hey. Man, it's
Yeah,
been a while
there.
since I said that.
I
Yeah,
know, right?
you always mess up. Like,
Okay.
the other time you were pointing that way and I was over here, it doesn't even matter. I'm here, guys.
I'm going to say this way. I'm going to bet on this way and hope I'm right. And as always, by the angry vegetable himself, Mr. Mad Seedling, a.k.a. Lou. Lou, how's it going?
What's up, folks? Glad to be here. Good to see you all.
Excited to have you back, my friend. And on this week's show, I have been fanboying for I don't even know how long, ever since all of this started coming together. Mr. Yuri Lowenthal, the voice of Spider-Man, the voice of Yosuke from Persona 4, the voice of who from Bugsnax, Destiny?
Chandlo.
Our boy
I love
Chandlo. 100%. Yuri, thank you so much for joining us.
Oh, it is my great pleasure. Thank you so much for that introduction. That is awesome. And just for saying the name Chandlo Funk Bun, because you just got to save that name to be happy, really.
Right?
100%.
Yeah.
We reviewed Bugsnax last year, and like we didn't even know it was you at that point, but Destiny and I could be like, Chandlo's the best.
It was last year, wasn't it?
It was last year. Yeah.
That was our first game. Yeah, that was the first game we reviewed. And as soon as like Chandlo came out, I was like, oh my god, I'm so team Chandlo. He's so awesome.
And a character that nobody's ever really let me like play before, which I mean, you know, kudos to Young Horses for letting me do that, because that was super cool for me.
He's such a
job. Yeah.
100%.
Thank you.
It was such a fun game. But before we get into our wonderful interview with Yuri, we're going to
It'll be a review of my life.
A review of your life.
Yeah.
100%. Let's dig into a bit of what's new, check in what's been going on with all of us. Lou, I'm going to start with you, actually. Lou, what's new? What's been going on? What have you been playing? What have you been watching?
Yeah. So been playing some more Hearthstone. Hearthstone Battlegrounds. It's a great game mode. Ton of fun. Endless hours of enjoyment. Of course, playing on the iPad. I like to relax in bed and play some Hearthstone. In terms of what I've been watching, we've been rewatching Stranger Things a little bit in anticipation of the new season.
Yeah, getting ready.
Yeah.
Nice.
Of course, baseball, catching up with my Blue Jays. And also been playing some Persona 4 in anticipation of today's today's interview. And that's about it.
Nicely done. Good. Yeah, I mean, Persona 4, a classic. It's Persona 4 Golden is my favorite game of all time, Yuri. So every time we talk about Persona, Destiny's just like, we're bringing it up again, guys. Hey, just like
listen, I have nothing against the game. We just talk about it all the time. But he makes fun of me because I like Final Fantasy VII, so it's fine.
I don't have any beef with that either.
See?
Not whatsoever. D, what about you? What's new?
Oh, wait, what were you going to say, Yuri?
Oh no, I was just gonna say I have a himbo in that game, in Final Fantasy VII. So
you do,
yeah.
You do.
Well, yes, we can get to it later.
Oh yeah, no, I definitely want to get to it. But what I've been up to? I finished Bly Manor, The Haunting of Bly Manor.
Nice.
That was an emotional roller coaster. I did not expect to get so upset.
Is it really horror-y? Because that's like I'm a giant baby.
It's more like gothic horror. So there are not a lot of jump scares because I can't do jump scares. The Haunting of Hill House, I heard, is much more scary than Bly Manor. But Bly Manor, I was crying a lot.
But the Haunting of Bly Manor has much more Rahul Kohli in it. So
that's true.
I'm into that. So I'm here for that content. So I should
probably watch it. Was really good.
More Rahul Kohli is never a bad thing.
Never.
What else have I been up to? I started watching Love on a Spectrum. Like, I watched it a while ago, like the one in Australia. And so now the US has their own version of Love on a Spectrum. And if you guys don't know what it is, it's basically like, it's the only reality TV show that I feel like has actual heart, because it works with people who are on the spectrum, and it's talking about their love lives and trying to date and find somebody. And it's so sweet because all of them just want somebody to love and be with. And it's like, it's not childlike, but it's so innocent compared to like a lot of reality TV that you see. So I started watching that, and let's see, new job opportunity came up for me, and
congrats.
Thank you. I'm not going to say what it is because I'm weird like that, but it's definitely something that I didn't expect to come out of it. I had only been working for the company for maybe a little under 2 months, and I got approached to be like a marketing manager for them. So that's really cool. Yeah, yeah. When he first came to me, when the director first came to me, I was like, I don't really know if I have the skill set to do this. And he's like, I think you're selling yourself short. We definitely want you to do it. So today was my first day, and it's been pretty incredible. And that's what I've been up to. Thank you so much. Yeah, so that's what I've been up to.
That's amazing, Dee. We're super proud of you. I know how much ass you're going to kick in that role, and I can't wait to see you do it. You're going to be phenomenal. Yuri, what about you? What's new? What's been going on?
Oh man, I've been working trying to raise a son, which is just an immense amount of work I found. But and he's really been giving us the business lately. He's a full-on teenager at almost 6 years old. So, but I do drown myself in watching things when I have insomnia at night and so on. I've been catching up on some old things and trying to get through some new ones. I just finished Station 11, which is a great ride. It's a slow burn, but super great. HBO's had some of my favorite stuff on it recently. Doom Patrol I've been catching up on as well, and it's like my favorite superhero show. And I haven't been playing anything. We can get into some stuff later, but yeah, that and I've been starting to rewatch Patriot on Amazon Prime, which is a show that I feel like I'm carrying this torch for. Like I'm an evangelist for this show. I'm like, this is my favorite show of all time. I just need people to watch it so I can talk to people about it. But yeah, it is. It's been a little busy path. I just went to a friend's wedding in New York. It was a very surgical strike where I flew over. I actually did, because I was flying over for such a short period of time. I rented a tuxedo and didn't pack any bags. So I walked. I have never done this before. I've never walked onto a plane with zero luggage. So what I did is that I put the couple of things that I needed in my pockets of the tuxedo. I walked on. By the way, what I learned is if you ever want people to pay attention to you, just walk onto a plane in a tuxedo.
Yeah.
I learned.
James Bond.
And then I walked off the flight. I got in a car. I went straight to the wedding. I came back, slept at the hotel, went to the brunch the next morning in the tuxedo because I had no other clothes.
Nice.
And then got back on the airplane and flew back last night. So, yesterday. But yeah, no, it was something I recommend doing once in your life at least. Get on a plane with no bags. You feel like it's secret agent. It's pretty great.
That's dope. That's dope. I want to get the tuxedo as well. Like, I just want to show up in a tux.
Right. And because I rented it, they did the fitting of it fit great. Like I've always bought clothes, off the rack, and they never fit exactly right. Ever.
I feel like at that point the TSA would just roll out the red carpet and be like, "Here you go, sir. Please join us right this through. Here's the direct way to the lounge."
Right, exactly. Please don't assassinate anybody on board because you're clearly some sort of spy.
Just give us a heads up, sir, please. Not on this flight.
Right.
They probably thought you were a really famous actor. I mean, you are famous, but still, they were all probably racking their brains. What have I seen him in before?
Right.
And then actually start placing you in things you've never been in.
Exactly. But because I was
one movie.
But because I was wearing a mask, they'll never know.
Oh,
they will never know.
I'm so proud of you for wearing
looking
a
at
mask.
my eyes. Thank you. That's something I believe in. And
yes, thank you. People
absolutely.
are just not doing it. I was at the airport maybe a month ago for a wedding, but nobody was wearing a mask, and I was just it's strange.
I know. Yeah, strange. I don't like getting sick, and I don't like making other people sick. It seems like a no-brainer. I'll probably, if it keeps, if it at the very least it keeps me from getting sick, then I'll probably wear a mask in an airport and on an airplane for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
Right.
I'm with you.
Yeah. When I was flying back from Dallas a couple of weeks ago, because Lou and I are based out of near Toronto in Canada, and Canada still mandates masks on the flights coming in, and they're like, the pilot was like, "Sorry, everyone, because it's Canada, you have to put on a mask." I was making a show out of it, and I was like, "Am I the only one on remotely close to actually wearing the mask? Who cares? Yeah. Put them on."
Yeah, I know. I would have cheered and then probably gotten beat up. As soon as I got off the flight. I'm that guy.
I had a tuxedo. They would have been.
That's
Matt,
true.
I'm so
Wear a
sorry.
tuxedo and nobody beats you up, I think,
Exactly.
so far. I've only done it once and I haven't gotten beat up, so my record is
Matt, I wanted to make sure we didn't forget to ask you what you've been up to.
So kind. As for myself, I spent a bit of time with Young Souls over the weekend. I picked it up off Game Pass, because Game Pass continues to be a fantastic service. Didn't really click with me. The reason I got into it was, I mean, the art style was super cool, and like I started playing it, and it was very like Streets of Ragey Destiny. So that's why I was like,
love Streets of Rage.
yeah. So I was like, my partner, my wife, like loves this style of game. So I stopped playing it after like the first 5 minutes. I was like, I'm going to play it with her. And she came down and we started playing it. We started getting into it. And after spending probably about like an hour and a half with it, we fought maybe like 15 enemies. There was just so much like space between the fights where there was just a lot of talking and a lot of running from point A to point B. The presentation's cool. The graphics are really cool. She was getting to the point where she's like, I just want to hit something. And I was like, please end the game. But like, it was just, they had some cool ideas, but I think it's just, there's too much kind of dead air in between the things that are actually happening in the game. Maybe it picks up after a little bit, but so far, I mean, it's on Game Pass. If you're curious, check it out. There's a lot of coolness to it. And I've gotten obsessed with a show called Abbott Elementary.
Oh, that's
I started watching
it. Yeah,
it's
so
good.
Yeah.
It's on Disney Plus. The first season just hit Disney Plus here in Canada.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Okay. And I've been adoring it. Like Senna and I started it over the weekend and we're on episode like 8 or 9 already. Like we've been like burning through it nonstop. It's just it gives me that feeling that like we haven't had like a really good like classic style sitcom in a while. I feel like there's been a lot of great shows, but like that sitcom kind of space hasn't really been filled in a little while. And like this is just, the acting is fantastic. The story is like sweet without being too saccharine and being like too much. It actually has a lot of emotional depth and heart to it, while it's also really funny. Like it's so good. If anybody is looking for a new show, go check out Abbott Elementary, because it's doing so much right. And it's already been greenlit for like its second and possibly third season.
Great.
It's so good. It's so good.
Can I just throw in that Quintaby is actually working with schools and things like that to help with funding. So I thought that was really incredible. So she's like she's from BuzzFeed. So that's where she got her start.
Didn't know that.
Yeah, she's from BuzzFeed. Like she was really famous for like the dumbest videos, which are amazing. They're super funny. But if you ever check out the old stuff on BuzzFeed, because I guess they kind of like stopped doing videos, that's where she got her start. And like she's just been like grinding ever since. So I'm like really, really proud of her and super excited for her. Nice. But Matt, we also played another game.
We also did play another game. You're 100% right. Destiny and I jumped into the first hour of V Rising. Massive shout out to Stunlock Studios for sending out codes for that. If anybody's unaware of what that is, it's a vampire, like Diablo-like survival game, and where you can co-op and stuff. So D and I were running around being vampires, hiding from the daylight, because the daylight will burn you.
The daylight will mess you up
horribly. And it's like, if you don't hide in the shade, like we were both like crouched under this like little like tree at one point, because of course we cut down all the trees around that area because we're like, we need wood. And then daylight hit, and then we got stuck, and we're like, okay, this is enough of this game for now. Let's play this again another time, because we cornered ourselves and neither one of us wanted to deal with it at that moment. But the game is really cool. Dee, what do you think of it so far?
I love it. If you like survival type games where you have to go out and gather and build and basically like make a fort, it is perfect. And the fact that I get to play a vampire and just fuck shit up.
Yeah, you're playing a vampire and not killing vampires.
Yes.
Which is kind of cool.
Yeah, it's so cool. I think Matt took on a bear at one point.
Yep. So, I sucked that bear's blood. I did it.
It was great.
It got to the point though where like I don't know if I just didn't hold the button long enough or it had too much health, but it like stopped me from drinking his blood and started attacking me. Destiny's like, why are you fighting it in our fort? I'm like, I don't know. This is just where we've ended up. She's like, stop doing that. You're breaking everything. And like that's usually what happens when Dee and I play survival games together. When we played Valheim, true. I accidentally dropped a tree on her.
Oh my God.
It was an accident. It was an accident. I just cut it down.
Yuri,
she happened to get in the way.
If you were there, you would have known it wasn't an accident.
It was an accident. You ran into the tree's path.
Who cuts down trees right beside another person? Like that's just like illogical. You don't do that.
Did you yell timber so that she knew that it was coming?
He didn't. He's just like, oh shit, oh, and it was already falling. And then
Okay, so I said, oh shit. There was at least that.
Right.
You should
right.
know if we're doing that, and I'm saying, "Oh shit, something's about to happen," and it's
Now I
probably
know. Now I know.
we
I'm
learned.
glad
But yeah,
I'm
that's
glad I learned this early on in our friendship. If Matt
there. You
if
go.
Matt is like, "Oh shit," then I should just run.
Yeah,
That's
just
that's
run.
usually a good way to go.
Okay. Okay.
Destiny has learned that the hard way a couple times. Luckily, it was just in Valheim. But without further ado, let's get into it. Yuri, once again, we're so excited to have you with us. And where I wanted to start our journey through your life is I wanted to ask about, like, what are some of your favorite early memories of gaming, and what kind of led you to the path that you started out on?
Well, I think playing games didn't lead me necessarily. I mean, everything, leads you to the place that you are now, whether you are aware of it or whether you choose it or not. Um, but I mean, because I'm older, I was there through the
What? No, you're
beginning
like
of,
twenty-three.
Thank
Thank you.
you're the
Mhm.
Yeah.
best. That is very sweet. You know just what to say to a girl. Um, but I was around like before video games, and then I was there for cabinet video games, where I would go and just pump quarters into video games at the arcade, and it was everything to me. And then I was there for the beginning of like home, computer gaming systems. My first system was an Intellivision.
Nice.
Yeah, which had cartridges but had this really messed up controller that had like a disc you would push, and your thumb would get super crampy like early on. But I loved it. And then we got we got an Apple IIe, and with a dual disk drive, so you knew we were cool.
Oh.
And
That's bougie.
and I just started consuming games. And I would say, I loved most games, but a game that will always, or game, a certain type of game that will always have a special place in my heart, were the early Infocom text adventure games, where there were no graphics. You just type, it would, text would pop up that would tell you a little description of what was happening and where you were, and you would control it by typing in, go north, go north, go north, go west, look at whatever the item is, that was in the description in the room, or, look at climb tree, that sort of thing. And they were, at that time, they were remarkably frustrating. But it was like the beginning of, this big, like, imaginative leap for me.
Mhm.
And then, I was playing Dungeons and Dragons at the time, and so like all the games that would come out that were then a step past that, the Ultimas and the Bard's Tales and like
Mhm.
all of that. I just Wizardry was the first one I thought, and it was, in retrospect, it was so simple and so, but it was, I would just lose entire weekends, of sleep to that. And so I just, I loved games for so long, and then I sort of fell out of playing games for a while, and found them again, probably right about, like PS2, early, Silent Hill, and like horror survival games, Resident Evil. I think it was Resident Evil that somebody popped it in at a friend's party, and I hadn't played a video game in a while at home, and I was, my heart started pounding, and I was terrified, and I'm like, oh my god, games have come a long way. And then I wanted to get back into them again, and then not too long after that, I got into this business where I got to actually audition for roles that would then be, characters in games, which is a big. And now I can even see from the beginning of when I first started doing that to obviously now, the leap that games have undergone. Once upon a time there wasn't a lot of room to put, a lot of dialogue onto a disc, and now, the stuff that they can do is obviously huge. So I've had a long life with games, but I still go back to those early text adventure games. I don't know, it was like, probably because it linked up with your imagination so hard. Like, I could see everything, and I loved, fantasy and adventure novels and things like that. I'm a big genre guy, and that was sort of the opening of this crazy new world for me.
It's
And again,
wild
a lot
how,
of the games
like,
that I liked after that. So
sorry. Yeah, no, it's wild that, like, back then it was just text, and now you're doing what, multiple takes depending if you're like breathing too heavy or not in Spider-Man, like where you're going
exactly,
too fast, and it's just like, no,
exactly.
he's labored here, and it's incredible.
It keeps growing and growing and growing. And when we started recording Spider-Man, we weren't doing that. it was an idea they came up with as we were already into it, and we had to go back and pick up a bunch of lines, with the swinging version, rather than, for so long they've always said, well, I'll ask for context on a line, like, am I shouting him? Am I running? Are we fighting? And they're like, we're not really sure when that's going to trigger. So if you could do a read that could kind of be used for all of that, that would be great. So it's nice to be able to get specific on it, and that I'm sure other games, after Spider-Man, other games were like, oh fuck, now we have to do that. That's so
right.
But it's, it adds to the, the reality of, pulling you into the reality of the game. And so, it's amazing what they can do now.
I can't imagine playing a game and somebody sounding like dead tone when they were like in a fight scene, except for maybe Batman, because like he usually has like a very level in tone. But, Spider-Man is such a he has such a big personality that like you would expect that. So if he was just like deadpan, you'd be like, wait a minute, what's going on, guys? But
no, I love it. I love the the quippiness and the that we can. That we do have room to create these characters that are so rich these days. It's not just description on a screen, or they get the line that they get when you choose them from the they get that line,
right?
And that's I guess that's my guy. But now, I mean, we can tell stories, and when I first started, there was no performance capture, there was no motion capture, there was there was, they animated the game, or if they were using performance or motion capture, they were stunt people in Czech Republic or whatever, and then you'd have to try to make your performance along with whatever the stuff that they captured was. And so for us to get to a place where now I get to also be in scenes with other actors, because usually we just record our dialogue solo in a space, and it's up to the director to give us context and to give us an idea of what the other performer has done, or if they've already recorded. But we wouldn't get to record with other actors, and to get on a stage with Bill Salyer as an example from Spider-Man, to do the Doc Ock stuff, where he's right there with me and we're playing the scene like we're doing a play, or we're shooting a movie, was a great gift. And it's why a lot of those scenes really came together the way they did, and the performances are so good, because it's actors reacting off of each other in the moment, and which is great. We don't always get to do that.
Really quick question that just popped in my head when you were talking about that. Is there any time, like when you're doing that some of those things are improvised, some of your reactions, or is it always like very specific what you need to say?
There is room for some improvisation, and it depends on the project, it depends on the team that you're working with, and it depends on some actors like to do that and some don't. There is room for some improvisation, but as it's a game, and they're very specific about sometimes the things that they need to make the game work. You can't just sort of make anything up you want to. Right. So it's a push-pull thing, and sometimes I'll ad-lib something that I think is funny, and they're like, yeah, this is in combat, that line was too long. Because it triggers in combat. Right. We don't have time for that joke. It's supposed to be really quick and punchy. So
got it.
And every now and then they'll be like, oh, that was funny. And sometimes I suspect that they'll say, oh, Yuri, that was really funny, and then they'll burn it and take the original as written one, to keep me happy. But it depends on who you're working with. Like I think early on in Spider-Man, I didn't feel like I didn't feel confident enough to just sort of start throwing things in. But after a while, as we got to to know each other, and as I got a feel for the character that they enjoyed and were writing and needed for the game, I felt more comfortable every now and then throwing something in.
Nice.
Yeah, well, you gotta pick your battles though.
Now I'm just totally expecting in Spider-Man 2 to have like a chapter of a novel being read out through the entirety of a fight scene, just like one running commentary throughout a fight scene. And it's like, that was Yuri's idea.
Clearly, if it sounds like it was just a little bit too long, that was me.
Yeah. That's amazing. So like when you you've like acted in so many incredibly important characters, and a lot of characters that mean so much to people. Like, do you ever get nervous, or do you get anxious anymore still, like when you're approaching a character like that? Or like, what are kind of some of your process when you're approaching a character that has a legacy like that? Like, does it affect you?
Oh my God, yeah. Because because I grew up, a card carrying, comic book reading nerd. I These characters are so important to me that even if I'm not, very knowledgeable about a specific character, I still understand the weight of that, in the fan base, and usually I'm part of that fan base, and I feel a certain, amount of pressure to not mess it up, um, and when that happens, I've learned to trust the team that I'm working with. Going back to Spider-Man, what I was really nervous going into it, but what pulled me out of that was that I trusted that the rest of the team would not let me fail. Like they're all huge Spider-Man fans as well, and if something
Mhm.
wasn't working, we would work on it together till it got fixed. They wouldn't just let that through,
Right.
because they wanted a good game as well, and so learning to trust the people you work with is important. That there's tendency to say, oh, I'm going to mess all this up, and you got to also realize that as the actor, you're just one small part in this sort of giant wheel of things that are going on in a game.
Mhm.
And as actors, I'm sure we're obsessed with how our own importance. But the fact of the matter is, every time we have to remind ourselves that we're just one part of that that bigger thing, and it actually helps because you're like, oh, okay, good. I'm not gonna make or break anything.
Mhm.
So yeah, it's hard because on one hand, carrying an iconic character like that, you can't help but think about, especially if you're nerdy like me, you can't help but think about all the people who've played them before,
Mhm.
and all the ways they've been explored before. And you're like, do I do it more like this person or do I do it like that? Story. Are we going from more like the that character from this storyline? From this obscure run of a comic book, or are we doing this other thing? And again, I had to go back and trust that I would bring myself and my choices to the character, and then we'd work together to make something that worked for this specific project, and it didn't have to
Mhm.
be beholden to any of those other the ones that came before. But inevitably, just because I'm so aware of a lot of those, I'm sure that they creep in anyway.
I I can imagine, but what I want to say is that because I'm going to toss it over to Lou for a question in a sec because I know he has some great ones lined up. But what I wanted to say very quickly is what you did with Peter Parker and with Spider-Man is easily my favorite interpretation of the character so far.
Oh,
So just
God.
thank you genuinely for the work that you do because I mean, that game made me cry. It made me incredibly excited. It was there for me through a tough time in my life. So it is my favorite iteration of the character, and I cannot wait for to see where you guys take it. But just you nailed it, and I can't wait for more.
Thank you, thank you.
I'm so proud of you, Matt, because I know the energy inside and the fanboy wanted to come out way more than that.
I'm trying to like.
I'm
Let
so
me
proud of you.
let me lay this out, and hopefully it's come clear at this point, but in case it hasn't, I'm the biggest fanboy in the world. So I mean, let your flags fly, because I'm gonna nerd out about all sorts of stuff, and you should feel just as comfortable as me to do that.
I definitely will, but yeah, it's just I loved everything that you did with the character, and I can't wait for more. But Lou has some cool stuff on
Thank
before I
you.
keep
Yeah, he
rambling on.
does.
Go, Lou,
Go,
Yeah,
go.
let's
Lou.
do it. Absolutely. Yeah. So, Persona 4 came to me at such a hard time in my life as well. And, Yosuke being the sort of best friend character, having lost friends in my life too, and having that game come to me at that time was just, yeah. So it's super important for me as well. And I thank you,
Awesome.
for everything you put into that game. Um, but of
Thank you.
course,
I love Yosuke. I love
totally.
Yosuke, my broske.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. He's definitely one of the most colorful characters on the game as well. So,
Yeah.
yeah, love him. Being that you have such a storied career across both television and video games, I wanted to ask, what are sort of the biggest differences or biggest challenges between acting for a show and acting for a video game?
Oh man. I mean, the nice thing about acting for a show is that, I mean, you really get to play in the deepest level. Like, you get to hold that blaster in your hand. You get to walk around that submarine. You get to I mean, obviously it's not, it's not real and they're sets and everything, but the details are there. So it's super fun to, immerse yourself as an actor in that. And the thing that I love about games so much, while I've gotten a certain level, going, I mentioned it, before, getting to do performance capture is like doing a play again. It's like shooting a show or making a movie. To a certain extent. I mean, we're still wearing those ridiculous suits, and everybody, you can't look cool. You can't look cool. I don't care who you are. You can't look cool in those suits.
In a leotard.
Yeah,
you just need to wear a tuxedo underneath it. That's all.
Yeah.
Oh God, just so that I know, just for my own
exactly,
confidence.
just for yourself.
I'll wear the tuxedo in my heart from now on, Matt. Thank you.
There you go.
But I think one of the things that I love, and has really allowed me to succeed as an actor in this business about the game industry and voice acting in general is that it doesn't matter what you look like. When I'm auditioning for TV and film stuff, if I don't immediately look like what the character is in their heads, then I'm out, unless my audition is so good that they're like, we change all our minds about everything, which, rarely happens. Whereas in a game, if you can, do it with your voice and just, that, then you can encourage their imagination, to come up with whatever it is in their heads. And so it's really opened up a huge, amount of roles that I would never be considered for ever.
Mm-hmm.
I'm 51 years old. I mean, what business do I have playing Spider-Man? Like, I mean, nobody would, I would never audition, I never get to audition for, play Spider-Man in a movie or a TV show. And yet I got to do that and I'm still doing it. Like I get to wake up in the morning, and I wake up and I'm like, I'm cranky. Oh no, wait, shut up. You're Spider-Man, like that. I mean, you're living in a dream, you're living in a fantasy world. So I think, with games, I've easily gotten to play so many more characters and gotten involved in so many more stories and gotten to work with so many more different people than I ever would have if I was just auditioning for TV or film. And a lot of people are like, why do you even audition for that stuff anymore now that you've, found your success here? And the fact of the matter is I get different things from different types of acting. Like there's something that I get from doing theater that I don't get from doing, like live theater, that I don't get from doing, anywhere else. There's stuff that I get from doing sketch comedy that I don't get from doing any of those other things. There are things from, I get from being on a movie set and, like showing up, doing independent film at, 3:30 in the morning in a forest with a bunch of other people, and it's all cold and, we're all like angry to have to be awake and, freezing, but we're all super happy to be, making this horror movie or, whatever it is. Mm-hmm. And then there's, games and animation where I get to play roles that I'd never be considered for, in any other medium. So I each of those different types of things feeds a certain part of me. And if I don't do some of those, like a little part of me atrophies a little bit. Like I miss doing plays, but I haven't since my son was born, almost 6 years ago, just because it's hard for me to justify, being gone for, 6 weeks of rehearsal, nights of rehearsal, and then, several weeks, to perform a show. And I don't want to make that sacrifice these days, but I miss it. Mm-hmm. But luckily I still get a lot of good stuff, in the type of work that I am doing. So
it's opened up my eyes to a whole new thing. I want to voice Storm one day, maybe Maxine from Batman Beyond.
You will voice Storm one day, Destiny.
I've never even tried out for anything like that, but I would love to do it.
You just said it. Let's make it happen.
I did.
Universe.
I just put it out in the universe. I'm ready.
Did.
I'm ready.
You did. I never thought I'd be doing it. I never thought I'd be Spider-Man. and look where we are today.
Look at
so
you now.
I know.
That is amazing. Go ahead, Luke.
What so how do you prepare either physically or research-wise or mentally when you're going into a voice acting gig, whether it be for Spider-Man or anything else? How do you prepare yourself?
It depends on how long when I go into a session, if I've already been playing the the character for a while. There are certain things I don't have to do anymore. But I generally do go into any type of session. I try to relax because I can easily get worked up. I suffer from a fair amount of imposter syndrome and just nervous energy, and so I try to relax. You got to breathe. And when I go in for performance capture stuff, I definitely have to stretch because getting back to the whole 51 years old thing.
Yeah.
That's the I try to keep in shape and I try to keep healthy. Just so that I can so my body doesn't betray me, at any given moment. So I can still, to the best of my ability, move like at least walk like a 25-year-old Spider-Man. We'll say anytime Spider-Man does something cool in the game, that is one of my many talented stunt doubles who I owe at least half of the performance for, to if not more. They're amazing, and working with them is like this really cool dance. So yeah, some physical stuff. Also, I try to stay healthy when I get sick. The first thing to go is my voice. So I'm always trying. Hence, back to the masks and the
Mask.
trying to stay hydrated and take care of myself. Try to get enough sleep, that sort of thing. So that's the preparation I do. I haven't done. It's funny. I just found some old notebooks of mine from college when I was preparing for a play. I found these character journals. This is what the character was thinking, in the character's voice and all this stuff, and asking all these questions, of the character and answering all these questions about the backstory and the history of the character and everything. And I don't do that anymore. I think it's valuable. And I think it was valuable for me to start to force me to automatically. I think what happens nowadays is, when I start to think about a character, I just start to automatically ask myself those questions, and to put myself in the place. So I don't do those types of exercises anymore. But I think they're very valuable, at least just to get you thinking about, because you want to get, each time. You could argue that most of my characters sound the same. Just voice wise. I don't metamorphosize my voice into some voice that you can't identify as another character that I've ever played before. But the more specific you get about a character, the better. And that comes, mostly, a lot from the writing. Like, if the writing is good, I barely have to do anything.
Right.
And so, but I try to just think about it and ask myself questions about that character and why the character is doing what they're doing, and, what their relationship is to the other people that I'm interacting with. And so that makes the character specific in a way that sets it apart from any other character that I've ever played. Even if you were to just isolate, just the voice prints for each and be like, wow, that he sounds pretty much the same every time.
No way.
No,
No, not at all.
Because there are some actors out there who are like, Nolan North is a chameleon. He gets asked to do, his Nathan Drake voice basically a lot. And so you would say, oh no, he always sounds like Nathan. But he shows up in games and you don't even know it's him until the credits roll, and you're like, that's impossible. That wasn't him. and I don't feel like I'm that type of character, but
I disagree hard, because and maybe that's the imposter syndrome creeping in, because there are times where I'll get to the end of something and I'll be like, holy shit, wait, that was Yuri? Like, that's incredible. And it's
when he was going over the list today of like different characters you played in different shows, I was like, what? That's him.
Are you sure?
But I get what you're saying. Because like, there's some people who just have a really iconic voice. Like Steve Blum will always be Spike Spiegel to me, no matter what he's in.
100%.
And he was like I think he was just speaking normally. He was on Logic's CD, and I was like, oh my god, is that Spike?
Right? Yeah, exactly. I know. Oh my god, his work with Logic is great. He introduced me to Logic. Like, I didn't know Logic. He did. He didn't. I didn't know about Logic before.
Oh my god, he's so good.
Yeah.
If you guys haven't heard that CD, it is incredible. And it's funny. I think one of the reasons why I picked up that it was him is because they're on a spaceship. And so like a lot of the takes in between are like very comedic. And I was like, oh my god, this sounds like Cowboy Bebop.
Oh my god, I'm gonna because this conversation went where it did, I'm going to let you guys know about something that I haven't announced yet, because this is hard because I'm not a musician or a singer or performer in that respect. And singing has always been very it's a tough thing for me. Like I don't feel confident. It's a very vulnerable place. But I started working with this hip hop artist named Big Lug, and he had asked me to do some stuff for him early on, just some like little needle drop things and like intros to some of his songs. And we got to working together, and we did a whole record together, and it has a bunch of other guest like stars from the same show that the album is styled after. And we just finished the last song, and we're trying to figure out exactly how to promote it and when we're going to release it, and exactly what the and I'm terrified.
I'm excited.
I'm so stoked. Yeah.
I am so excited.
It's yeah, I'm excited too, and we're trying to figure. I'm waiting on somebody to get back to me about album artwork for it, and then once I think we have an image, we're going to start promoting it. But I will let you guys know.
Please keep us in the know.
Yeah,
we will
yes.
the shit out of it. Like,
yeah,
I'm so excited.
Yes, thank you. We will need that because he doesn't have he's not really well known. He doesn't have like a big label behind him or anything. And yeah, no, I've and nobody if anybody out there is clamoring to hear an album
I'm gonna
by
tell
me.
everybody.
Yeah, I'm in.
All my family. I'm telling everybody.
All right.
You're about to be like,
honestly.
All right. Okay.
Platinum. But
I'm
It's
hoping.
destiny.
Yeah. There it is. That's her catchphrase.
It's a good
It's
one.
destiny.
It's destiny.
There you go.
Oh
my god! If you were on a sitcom, you'd be like, "It's destiny."
Yeah, that's exactly. Yeah. Oh my god, It's Destiny is so like so much of a better title than That's So Raven. Like I mean,
oh my god,
like
oh my god,
come on, right? Right? It's Destiny.
Yes.
It says so much because it's you, but it's also
man.
the way it's supposed to be.
brilliant.
That is
You guys
really
remember that time that
good.
we did a podcast and we came up with the idea for your show that
My
became
show?
famous? Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Then I'm gonna have you do the intro music and the outro music. I mean, like it's all coming full circle. It's all coming.
There we go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I had a really quick question.
Yes, go.
Because like I just feel like you have so much fun with all the characters you play, and you're very passionate about them. Who was your favorite character to voice out of all the ones you've done? Because you've done a lot. Like, who would you say that, like, I really loved playing that character?
I can never pick just one.
Okay, you know what? Give me a
those,
list.
but can I give you some that have?
Yes.
Yeah. The Prince of Persia, like the Prince and the Prince of Persia, Sands of Time, was like the beginning of something special for me, and I will always love that guy. Sasuke on Naruto, which is a show and a bunch of games, is a character that has such a rabid fan base, and is for me a character that at the time nobody was asking me to play that type of moody character. They were all asking me to play chipper young heroes, who nothing bad has ever happened to them. I mean, it was that, and so a character with a dark past and something that was, and his legacy lives on, and he's the character I've played the longest in my career because I still continue to this day to play him. So, but having grown up a big superhero guy, getting to play Superman in Legion of Superheroes, getting to play Spider-Man. I mean, those are always the red letter days for me, man. Like I feel like I go into a job like that and then I walk out and I'm like, check, I mean, like whenever I've played somebody in the DC universe or the Marvel universe that I knew from, reading comics and watching cartoons growing up, that's always still a big deal for me. So those are some of the, the ones, but if you kept me talking long enough, I'd probably bring up, just about everybody. There's,
I think that's great.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's that. Sure, there's some, I mean, I always have fun doing what I'm doing, but there are characters like that, and then sometimes there are characters like, Soldier C in Call of Duty. I love playing Army, but but there's that guy. He screams grenade and blows up and gets set on fire, and that's that's a great it's a hell of a way to make a living, I'll tell you. But then to play like Spider-Man,
Yeah.
is
I mean, that's an
is a
iconic
thing.
character, and he's been around longer than any of us have been around, right? So that's that has to be like such an honor to take on that mantle as him. So you know what? Congratulations on that. I know, like, I mean, like, that's incredible that people were like, we want you to do it, and you've done such a like, it's so well received.
Well.
Couldn't get that word out. It's been such a well-received performance. So yeah, kudos on that.
Thank
and
you.
Sasuke and all the characters you play, because you're fucking rocking it. You're killing it.
Thank you.
Matt,
Thank
bleep out
you.
all my cuss words.
Don't.
But yeah.
I mean,
I'm gonna bleep out all the normal words that you only cuss.
Right. It's like
fuck.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So I got to also just not a game thing, but I in a the two things recently. I got to play this amazing character in a podcast, a fictional podcast, fictional horror podcast that I was a fan of, and I think I was so loud about how big a fan I was that they finally ended up finding a role for me on it, called Old Gods of Appalachia. That is a great, if you love horror fiction, horror podcasts like gothic, not gothic, but more like like Southern fried Lovecraftian horror. It was, I played a character called the Railroad Man that is chilling and creepy, and the type of character again that I love watching when I'm watching movies and listening to stuff like that, but I never have gotten to play a character like that, so that was super fun. And I got to do a sci-fi show that was originally live. It was like doing a performance, like a theater live performance piece a few years ago called Orbital. It was a show called Orbital Redux that we did, and every week we streamed live, and it was all one take. Like the camera, where they said action, and we did the whole episode. And it's sci-fi, so it's got visual effects and it's got lots of camera cuts and for different angles, but it was all done in one. And even the music that was the score was performed live by a band, like on the stage while we were doing it. And there was interactivity, like people in the chat could suggest certain branching storylines. So it was, it was
dope.
It was definitely like the highest tightrope I've ever walked, professionally. And but that didn't get picked up for a second season. It was on Legendary's streaming platform called Project Alpha, and that went away. But the rights reverted to us, and so we took all the footage from that and we cut together the best version of it. And I'm still like so proud of the show. You can watch it on Dust. I don't know if you know Dust. It's a sci-fi aggregator. It's watch dust.tv, or they've got an app, and if you look up Orbital Redux, I implore you to watch it if you like sci-fi. It was some of the most fun I've had in a long time. So
that sounds awesome. We're definitely gonna have to check that out. We're gonna have to do we'll have to talk
about it. You know what we're gonna have to do? We're gonna have to watch it, and then we're gonna have Yuri back on.
We'll have to do a part 2, guys.
We'll have to do a part 2.
Oh, nuts! We have to do a part 2.
Put it in the universe. It's happening. It's
I told you I'd nerd out so hard, you guys, that we would never even get to all the questions that we were going to.
Oh my god, this has been so much fun. Okay, a couple of questions left before we kind of go for the home stretch here. In the age of reboots and remakes, I mean, you're already going back to the Prince, correct me if I'm wrong, with the remake that's coming. Is there any roles or any characters that you would like love to go back to if they ever did like a remake or a redo or anything? Like, are there any characters that you're like, I'd love to revisit this space?
Oh man, that's a tough one because you never think that they're going to. But then with Prince of Persia, 15 years later, if they do go back, you just assume that they're going to cast somebody else. That's just the way it works. That I got to come back for that I got to come back after years for, there's a series of video games called Dot Hack that I got to come back many years after that series had concluded for some more stuff, and for them to redo it, remaster it, was amazing. As far as characters I'd like to go back to, after a long time, And all of them. I don't know. I mean, I'm glad we got to do more Bug Snacks because Chandlo is
Yes.
just he's a hero.
I love Chandler so much.
I just have so much fun that it's hard to not want to go back to it. I had a lot of fun on a game called Call of the Sea that was a smaller game. This came out last year, I'm pretty sure. And it was by a out of the blue. There's a more indie company, but we're gonna get to work again together on a new game called American Arcadia, which I think they're gonna be. I think you're gonna be dropping a trailer soon for that. But at least I get to, in that respect, I think I at least get to work with the people that I had fun with playing that character that one time on that thing. So yeah, I mean, all those characters that I'd love to go back and do more Legion of Superheroes. I mean, playing Superman was great, and I thought it was a great show that came at inopportune time, and that's why it didn't. And weird marketing stuff and weird merchandising, and that was right when Kids WB, got rid of their Saturday morning lineup.
That was so sad.
And all that, yeah.
Well,
but yeah, I'd love to go. I'd love to go back.
I know Lou and I are shouting from the hilltops for Sega Atlas to give us Persona 4 Golden again in any iteration. So please remaster that, remake that.
Please
more Yosuke, please.
I know they've moved on with the Persona franchise, and where's Yosuke?
Yeah. I'm saying, bring it back. Yeah. Let him be a teacher at the next one. Come on, more Yosuke, middle-aged Yosuke. I'd be all about it.
Yeah.
Something else I wanted to ask you, because we're getting to the last question, but something that I'm curious about is, after a long day or a particularly tough day, or like if you do go through a session that's particularly difficult, how do you de-stress? What are some of your favorite ways to kind of like wind down and take care of your own mental health? Because I can only imagine how much stress you go through at certain points. How do you take care of yourself in those moments?
I'm a big cinephile. I watch movies a lot. I just love watching movies and escaping to that. And I go to my, I used to love going to the movie theater to do that live. I mean, that like going to cinema was like church for me. And it's been tough, in the times of COVID. I just have not, done that. But I'll go to my office, at night after everybody's asleep, and I'll put on new movies, old movies. But I will say, to bring it back to games for a minute, during the pandemic, I came to a game that wasn't new at the time, but it always sort of been on the back burner for me. Firewatch. I don't know if you guys played Firewatch, but Firewatch had a huge positive effect on my mental health in the pandemic, when I needed to escape into a place that, and this is representative of me at my age and the games that I play, I think, and who I've become as a gamer. I don't like to play games anymore where I have to learn complex mechanics to keep fighting off things that are trying to kill me. Like, I've got enough stress and worry and risk in my own life. And so I play a lot of, story games and environment games, and games where I can just immerse myself, and I know I'm going to start here and eventually I'll end up somewhere and nothing's going to try to kill me on the way there. Make it a little, scary at some points, but I know I'm not going to die. And maybe some simple riddles, because I get frustrated if the riddles are too hard.
Me too.
If I have to spend more than an hour on a riddle, like I don't know that I'm going to get back to the game. But so I found, like, I had wanted to play Firewatch. My friend Sissy Jones is in the game, and I'd heard such great things about it, and it really seemed like my kind of game. And I just didn't. And then the pandemic hit, and I was playing more games, and I started playing it, and it was, I mean, an emotional roller coaster, sure.
Yes.
Beautiful storytelling, great environment and music, and just a vibe. And I found myself going to, I mean, a lot of it is you're walking through the forest from point A to point B. There's no, fast track. There's no, and I would just find myself sometimes I would just sort of stop, and I'd be standing in the forest, and I'd be sort of listening to that ambient music, and the wind in the trees and stuff like that. And I was able to escape, in a way that was very, safe. I felt safe to escape. And the characters are so beautifully drawn in that game that I was into their story. And then when I didn't want to be part of their story, I just sort of backed out, and I just sort of hung out in the forest. And it was extremely helpful to my mental state in the pandemic, because it ain't easy, and I keep saying it like it's all over and done with and in our rearview mirror, and I know it's not. We're all trying to do that, to put it away, and I know it's still sort of lurking, so, and it still affects our day to day. But so if if you know what the next Firewatch is, or something that can replace that, I'm always taking recommendations.
Awesome. There's definitely some games out there that are very story driven and character driven that you might like, that are kind of the same as Firewatch. I remember playing it, but I hadn't read anything about it beforehand, so I was so nervous there were going to be, because it's a mystery.
Me too.
I'm not like spoiling anything, but at points I'd be like, oh my god, something's gonna fucking jump out and kill me. Like, I was like very nervous. But then like when you get to the end, you're like, wow, this was really just a story about like these two people coming to terms with things that were happening in their life. And it's so beautiful. Like, you didn't realize what you were getting into until you were like in it. Right? So great game.
Fantastic
great
game.
choice.
That's a great choice. One of our favorites is I don't know if you've ever heard of Lost Words Beyond the Page, is one that like has wrecked Destiny and myself emotionally.
Oh yeah.
I'm writing it down right now.
Yeah, it's called Lost Words. It's about a girl who is a young girl who's half the game takes place in like her sketchbook, and you're literally hopping on her words and like the paintings that she and the drawings that she does, and the other half is in this like mystical fantasy world that she's like struggling
to.
As she's like struggling with some things that are going on with her family and dealing with like grief and loss and stuff like that. But it's incredibly done. So if you're looking for another game that, again, you don't have to really worry too much about things happening to you, but just it's an experience. It's a journey.
Edith Finch. What was it?
Yes.
What happened to Edith Finch, or whatever? Loved it. Yeah, that kind of game is my jam these days.
There's just so much to love in those.
Mm-hmm. I'm sorry, Matt, I didn't mean to cut you off. I just like that you said that, because like I feel like there's so many like toxic ways of being like, oh, you're not a real gamer if you play games like that. But it's so like nice to hear that those are the type, because I felt the same way when you're like, I don't want to like learn new mechanics. I just want to enjoy the game and the story, and that's how I am. Like if I have to play, that's probably why I don't like Smash Brothers, because I literally just smash a bunch of buttons, and I like always end up falling off a cliff. So I was like, that's not me. I don't find that fun.
I went to a convention once, and they said, hey, we've got like a Smash Brothers booth, will you play people at Smash Brothers? And I said, on one condition, because I've never played it before and I'm going to be terrible at it. You have to print up shirts that say, I kicked Yuri Lowenthal's ass at Smash Brothers, and give them out to the people who play against me. And they were like, okay, we'll do it. Because I know because I'm not going to win. I'm not going to beat anybody.
Yeah, that's me.
That is amazing. We need those shirts. We need to try those down. Because
see if any of your listeners were at that convention in Vegas.
Because that's incredible. That's so funny. But that brings us to the end of the podcast. Yuri, it was an absolute pleasure having you. I really hope you come back and join us again in the future. And I would be remiss if I didn't shout out our friend DJ Stormageddon over at Fun and Games Podcast, because he's been on the show a few times, and he's going to be back on soon. He's a dear friend of ours. But again, thank you for joining us.
Another good Matt.
Another good Matt.
Yeah. I've never met a bad Matt. I've met some bad Chris's, but I've never met a bad Matt.
Destiny's golden rule. We don't mess with Chris's.
Right.
Nope. But yes, thank you for coming, and I hope you join us again in the future.
I would love to. Thank you guys so much.
If people wanted to find more of you, Yuri, where could they do so? Where can they learn more all about yourself?
I am most active on Twitter. I mean, I have an outdated website, yurilowenthal.com. But you will see that it's outdated as soon as you go there. But at Yuri Lowenthal on Twitter, and at Yuri Lowenthal on Instagram. I'm more active on Twitter. So if you have questions and stuff like that,
I gotta go follow you right now.
Better chance. Oh, thanks.
I don't know where my phone
is. I've somehow managed to curate a really wholesome group on Twitter, which can otherwise sometimes be terrifying. I love the people in our community there. They're just they're super cool.
Well, I appreciate you taking a shot on us, because I know I was literally like, I'm going to put it out on Twitter and just see what happens. And it's funny, DJ Storm messaged me after. He's like, why didn't you ask me? I'm like, because it had to happen naturally. I had to put it out there.
Yes.
But thank you for joining us. Lou, if people wanted to hear more of you, you have your new music. I mean, how did we miss the fact that you make music? You have your stuff coming out. Tell us more about what.
Yep, new stuff coming out.
Yes.
New track coming out May 30th, and then June 30th, and then more after that. You can find me on Instagram at Mad Seedling, Spotify, Mad Seedling, madseedling.com. New videos every week on Instagram, so check it out.
Make sure you go follow Lou. He makes incredible music. His tracks are just they help get me through the workday,
They're
honestly,
so
just because they're
good.
such a vibe every day.
Thank you.
Dee, what about you? Where can people find more of you?
So like soon I'll be starring in my own show, so you'll be able to catch me.
That's
on
right.
that.
It's Destiny.
It's Destiny. But for right now, you can catch me over on Twitter at DMBC32. You can catch me on Instagram at Liquor Store Diva, Facebook, Pudding and Flan. If you look that up, you'll be able to see the webcomic there. And yeah, I think that's, and you can find me here. And we're going to be doing our new podcast very soon. I know I keep saying that, and you're like, bitch, you said that like 2 months ago. So for real, we're going to be doing it. And it's going to be dropping in June for bonus level over at Level 1 Gaming. So please stay tuned for that. And
Yes.
Matt, if people wanted to find you, where could they find you?
Nice dandy. Yeah, make sure you go support our friends over at Level 1 Gaming. They make amazing stuff all the time. As for myself, you can find me on Twitter at burnout_Matt. You can find me over on Carpool Gaming every week, hosting the PlayStation Drive over there, where we talk all things PlayStation. And make sure you tune in to The Power of Play. Our mental health series is winding down. We have just a couple episodes left for the Mental Health Awareness Month of May. So please go check that out as well. We have the devs of Lost Words, previously mentioned, coming on for this week's episode.
Nice.
So make sure you go and support them. They make incredibly important and, very work that resonated with us a lot. So go check them out. Once again, Yuri, thank you for joining us. It's been an absolute blast. We can't wait for you to come back and rock this again in the future. Dee,
Thank you.
Lou, it's a pleasure as always. We'll see everybody on the next episode.
Bye.
Yeah. Peace out.
If Matt yells,
There you go.
if Matt is like, "Oh shit," then I should just run.
Yeah,
That's
just run.
usually a good way to go.
Okay.